Welcome to an all-new Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and I know I've said this, I think about 5 times now this season, which is how many episodes we've had so far, but we have another first-timer with us today. We have Mann, the VP of Sales for Dupont USA. So I want to welcome him to the show. Like I said, it's your first time on the show, so welcome. Thank you for putting yourself through my 10,000 questions I'm going to ask you the next hour.
No problem. Like in radio talk shows, there's the first time caller, long time listener. So
Awesome.
I hope I fit into that well.
You will. And for anyone who's just watching for the first time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to get notified anytime we have new content and new videos and interviews that come up wherever you're subscribed to this podcast. So, Les, it's your first time on the show. We're going to get into the getting to know you questions. But first, I thought a great way to get to know you is always to ask some random off the wall question to kind of get you started and get you thinking and ready for all the other questions that are going to come your way. So I thought about it. And for you, I came up with the question of, if you didn't have to sleep, what would you do with that extra time?
I thought this was going to be an easy show. If I couldn't sleep, I think people that know me well would say that I would be working. But if I didn't have to sleep, it would, without question, be spend as much time with my wife, Jennifer, my daughter, Natalie, my son, Alex, and our boxer, Simba, doing something with my family, which is the most important thing to me.
Definitely. Are your kids and where are they in life?
We're in the empty nester mode. So my daughter Natalie is 24 and living in Boston, which is nice. It's about Natick, about an hour from here.
Okay.
My son Alex turned 21 and he's going to be a senior at Cigar Town USA at the University of Tampa.
Oh, okay.
So they both love where they're at and what they're doing. And, it's you would wish that they were both home, or, the hardest thing with a parent, in my opinion, is when they go to call. Natalie went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, where I'm from. So it made it a little easier because family's there. But that goodbye Natalie in the dorm parking lot, regardless of how much family you had, it's something that as a parent you expect, it's going to happen, but you really, the drive home to Rhode Island from Pittsburgh was, I guess, happy, sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Alex is, thank God for Southwest and Tampa, such a great airport. What does Alex need be 3-hour flight, something like that. But, as a parent, you need to prepare for that day. You don't really grip exactly what it's all about until those days come. But as parents, Jennifer and I, you've got to let them fly out of the nest. You got to let them spread their wings and do what they want to do. I did that. My parents, right after high school, I never lived in Pittsburgh again. And, I look back at that thinking, how did this even survive? Because we didn't have cell phones. You didn't have Zoom. You know what I mean? It was, more or less house phones, pay phones, things like that. So, yeah, I'm a very proud husband, father, uncle, friend, things like that too.
Well, that's great. I think that kind of leads us into the getting to know you questions, because we get to learn a lot more about you. So, you've worked in the cigar industry or, broadly for, I would think, a while.
Yeah. I started at Calibri being running SC Dupont in 2000. So might be showing my age a little bit here, but 24 great years in a great industry.
And you work in the accessories kind of side of the industry. I don't know what to call it other than that.
No,
But
you're on it. It's let's call it smoking accessories, and Dupont. We also do small and large leather goods and writing instruments and men's fashion jewelry accessories. So it's an all encompassing lifestyle brand. But my focus really has always been through the tobacco channel.
so take us back to 2000.
Oh, that's my watch. Sorry. I don't know.
It's fine.
Sometimes my watch.
Mine does it too, and
Yeah.
I have a home pod, and sometimes it'll just hear like the slight whisper, and then it will think it's like it'll start answering. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I was like, I didn't ask you a question.
Oh, yeah, because I just said how much I love the industry, and my watch said I don't understand.
Maybe it's like making commentary because
I'm actually, you know what? That's a bad watch. I just took it off.
Some people in the industry will agree with that. They'd be like, I don't understand that either. But
yeah.
So take us back to the beginning. Like, what led you to the industry to begin with? Like, did you like intentionally land here, or was it just like you were looking for a job and you kind of got into this?
No, good question. Kind of crazy story. Out of college, I played high school, college golf, and I was in Rhode Island, and you might be too young, but Cross Pen Company was a very famous writing instrument company based out of Rhode Island. And I started with them. I worked 10 years with them. And I went through, like everybody else, I started in South Jersey. Then they moved me up to Manhattan, and I was like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. I walked the street. My territory was 7 miles, right? It was from downtown up to Columbia and Mount Sinai Hospital, but it was all through either walking, subways, cabs, whatever. And in 1999, Calibri became the distributor of ST Dupont. ST Dupont used to be the distributor, and they owned it out of Paris. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they selected Calibri, and Calibri was then looking for someone to run that business. Fred Levenger, who is probably on my Mount Rushmore of my mentors, on the top of it. So anyway, and I knew the pen business, and as I said to you earlier, DuPont is a very famous, successful pen brand as well. So, I spent 10 years in the pen business, not in the lighter business, in the tobacco business. Actually sold Nat Sherman chrome pens, so I knew who Nat Sherman was when I worked in the big city. And ironically, Calibri was located in Cranston, Rhode Island. AT Cross Pen was located in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And I was living in Warwick, Rhode Island. So now Rhode Island is, I don't know the name, the fact. It might be smaller than Delaware. It might be a little larger than Delaware. It's tiny. So now they're looking for someone. And how can this fall onto my plate where my commute actually went from 25 minutes to Cross to 15 minutes to Calibri? And I didn't have to move.
Oh, that's always good.
There's a good saying out there that, timing is everything. So, interviewed with Fred Levenger, an hour or two. Let him flat out know that I don't know the smoking business, the tobacco, the cigar side, just the pen side, but willing to learn, willing to meet the right people, willing to do everything. And there never was a second interview. And I think the most exciting thing for me was starting in an industry that you are not familiar with, both products, both people, manufacturers, retailers, things like that, right? And getting to know as many people possible, remembering as many people's names as possible, and starting a fresh career in an industry that you didn't know, and which was, I don't know if challenge is the right word, Antoine, but I can tell you that I don't know if people like me off the start or they liked SD Dupont more than they like me. SD Dupont was a nice lead into me to get introduced to people
Hmm.
because it is the brand in the industry. But you can only take that so long. Then you've got to start building trust. Before you really build relationships, you have to have the trust first. And you have to have the trust first with retailers, manufacturers, people like you, the media, things like that. And I love that kind of opportunity. I like walking into a room where I don't know anybody, and shaking hands and meeting new people and listening to what they do, where they're from, their walk of life, whatever. So within a very short period of time, I was thrown from changing fountain pen nibs and putting ink in pens to pinging line 2 lighters and filling them with butane. And that that start really propelled me professionally and socially, because like everyone in our industry, there's a lot of friends out there, right? There's a lot of it's such a close knit industry, which at first it really, and I've said this before, I remember my first TAA where I really got to know. So that was probably March, the Scottsdale Princess in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I walked into the TAA and I'm like looking at people. And I was with Wayne Suarez from Fuente, who happened to really open up every door for me. And I owe him my life for that. And he's saying, well, that's Carlito Fuente, or that's Rocky Patel, that's Robbie Levin, like all the different people. And everybody is hugging everybody. And I was like, wow, this is really weird. And I said this to Wayne, because if I was at, like, say, the stationery show and the head of Mont Blanc or the head of Cartier, my competition in the pen business, I'm not hugging them, right? I'm competing against them. And I really was not set back by that, but it really made me take a deep breath of what a great industry. And I guarantee you that, knowing the personalities that I know, they're still competing against everybody. You're competing against humidor space. You're competing against, consumer reach, things like that. And then what really dove into me to solidify everything, Antoine, and this might have been in 2002-ish, 3, and I don't remember. That's when the Cigar Rights of America kicked off. And Jennifer and I got invited. And of course we went. And it really hit me because everybody is fighting a cause here together. And if they succeed, they all win together. If they fail, they all fail together. Right. And don't forget, I'm just the accessory person here. I'm not Carlito or Robbie. You know what I mean? These people are Rocky, but indirectly and directly, if that cigar business goes, who's going to use DuPont lighters? So, and that was a day, it was up on the roof somewhere on the west side of Manhattan. And then Jennifer and I got invited to the Grand Havana room and, spent the night there. And then right there, I was convinced that my path, my career, it's important to me that I'm with good people, but it's important to me that I'm with good people that are passionate and that work hard. And I think if you define our industry, that's really the cornerstone, excuse me, to fighting taxation, fighting legislation. You can smoke here, you can't smoke there. What am I going to do? Boom, boom, boom. This industry is such a great industry, but it's had so many fights along the way. And once one fight's over, then another fight starts. And then, you know what I mean? So but through all that fighting, and when I mean fighting, I just mean challenges, not, you're not going up there like, like Muhammad Ali. But at the end of the day, everybody, the Newmans, of course, they all get together. And by the way, they still are, because I remember leaving, and it might be day 2 of the show, and all the manufacturers are meeting with what's going, there's always sessions. PCA always has updates, always has sessions, always brings people together, because you can't assume this is just going to go away, and you always need to be prepared. And you have these people that have to be prepared for the trade show, for making sure the cigars are ready, making sure their business is good, making sure the customer's happy. And then you have that as well too. So hats off to everybody in this industry that has given time, love, effort, capital to the cause, because 24 later, or actually 22 later since CRA, you and I are still talking.
You talked about Fred being such a big mentor and on your Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
I know that there's probably a lot of things that he taught you and that he kind of helped kind of ingrain in you. But is there one particular thing that really stands out that he kind of helped you see or understand, or kind of like you still every day you kind of carry that with you?
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, he was tough. He was loud, and I've really toned it back a little. My wife has said, "You got to slow down here." Fred never aimed. Fred fired. Okay. Calibri at that time was a monster company made up of about 10 different brands. And the lighter business was not the biggest brand. The jewelry business was. So I actually sat on his desk, not in a chair, when we talked. And he would teach me things about so many other industries, which really was nice for me to absorb. But one of Fred's lines was, "It's not what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you." And I probably have 10 or 15 different Fredisms when things happen, good or bad, success or conflict failure. Even to this day, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do or not, but I'm like, what would Fred do here? Where would Fred be thinking? And he always taught me to always think 3 steps ahead of everybody that you're talking to. So my mind has been patterned to listen to what you're saying right now, but saying, I think his next question, because he said this, might be that, but after that, he's going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of is instilled in me, that you always listen with your ears and think with your brain, and take a little pause here till you really talk with your mouth. And I've tried to be, through my career, with managing people, talking to customers. I love doing co-branding, licensing opportunities a lot. That's probably my favorite thing to do. But it's really listening, understanding. Well, I know what my brand is. I know what SC DuPont's all about. But understanding your brand and your distribution, kind of where you go, to make sure it's got to be a perfect fit for both parties. But really, I never, and maybe it's wrong, I never really take notes. I should probably take more notes when I'm talking to people.
But I think if you listen, you don't really need to take notes, because I feel like notes are for, you get so kind of caught up sometimes in taking the notes.
Yeah, you get caught up. And I also feel that, if I'm talking to someone and they're taking notes, I'm kind of thinking to myself, are they really listening to me? Or did what I say, is that either that important or that bad that they're writing down?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always do my note recaps at the end of meetings and things like that. But always, when you're speaking to someone, be it the person behind the counter, be it the retailer, whoever it is, you just need to give them 100% of your focus, because that is what you would expect somebody to do if you were talking to them. Mm-hmm. And through this industry, well beyond retail stores, at trade shows, and don't forget, and you know this as well as everybody, there's hours of the trade show. I'm as busy or busier 3 hours before the trade show opens, and I'm not, and everybody knows me well. You're not going to find me halfway slouched underneath the bar at 2 a.m, right? But at 2 a.m, if there's work to be done or interesting things to learn, I'm kind of standing there, maybe leaning because I'm tired, but doing a lot of work. My goal every trade show is one day to be the first one in the trade show and sweet talk the little old lady, the security guard, to please let me in because this is what I want to do, and they always do.
Mm. Um, I tell people I'm not a good salesperson, so me trying to convince people sometimes to buy something or to think about spending money over here is not, it's not something I'm comfortable with. I think we've all had to do it in some way, in some form. But I was reading a book, and I read lots of books, especially on things I'm not really comfortable with, like sales. And it was saying that, the biggest sales tip from one of the books I read, I can't remember which one, was that people don't buy for your reasons, they buy for their own reasons. Do you find that to be the case? Like I know ST Dupont and all the other companies you've worked for may have reasons, bullet points saying people are going to, buy this because of this, or these are like the features and stuff like that. But do
I
you
mean,
find?
yeah, first of all, you're a very good salesman because we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago. You wanted me on the show. You told me everything's going on, and here we are. So you closed the deal. Okay. As far as I think the best salespeople really live for the next order, not this order. Because, and I mentioned trust, especially with retailers. Every product, and we are the creme de la creme, okay? But every product has different demographic areas, has different, socioeconomic areas, different colored kind of areas and color. I mean, case qualities, be it gold, be it silver, be it lacquers, things like that. That you got to gain the trust that, as I said, your next order is your best order because that buyer is trusting you, that your business. You listen to them because you ask the right questions. Tell me about your clientele. Tell me about your lounge. Tell me about what goes on. So you got to have all this encompassing information before you just go, hey, the new SD Dupont Legrand just came out. You got to have it. Oh yeah, you do have to have it, but there's a lot more behind that. You can teach features and benefits and products. Okay, like a sprinter, it's hard to teach someone to run fast. I really believe this, that you can get better, you can read books, you can understand this stuff, but the best salespeople are born with that knack of interpersonal communication, of looking people eye to eye, of really, instead of, you know what I mean? You're born, salespeople are born, they're not made. You can make a robot, you can make someone to do that stuff, but the sales call is far more than just scratching your eye, getting the iPad going and writing an order, right? There's people you talk to in the store, you talk to the help. I try to make it a point whenever I'm in a store with a salesperson or even by myself to spend time in the lounge with their consumers. And by the way, they know who I am, and we talk about DuPont. Hey, what are you smoking? Do you like that new cigar? Are you a full-bodied guy? What do you cut with? Things like that. And that's how you get an appreciation of really how to write the order at the store. And don't forget for 1 minute that the retailer, the owner of the store, out of the corner of your eyes, not saying, hey, look at the DuPont guy over there. He's dealing with this. And no matter what you sell, there's always going to be some kind of an issue. Be it they didn't fill the lighter right, if they dropped it in the bunker on the 16th hole, they don't tell you that. And you've got to deal with a consumer who 99.9% of the time is always right. And you got to get them off the ledge. You can't go on the ledge, right? But that's also a part of selling. So there's a whole lot of things. I don't like robotic people. I like natural people. I like people with And the first impression, I'm a huge first impression guy. All right. I'm not saying that you can't judge, I never judge a book by its cover, but what I'm saying is, and maybe because I've been doing this for 35, a lot of years, you can tell right away the con man versus the real man. And by the way, that's all part of understanding people and putting people in the right places to succeed. And I think in business, if you have an opportunity and you got the right, male or female that can get that done, don't think about anybody else. You want them to succeed and place them in positions for success, not for failure.
I definitely want to get to transition a little bit to talking about ST DuPont, because I feel like you kind of teased a little bit. People kind of get a sense of what it's like to speak to you about ST DuPont, I think, from hearing your spiel just now. But, I've always known in this industry, ST DuPont is a great, reliable brand. It's a luxury brand. It's for people who, for me, it's like for people who want to make a statement. You can go to Staples and get a pen. But if you want, like I said, a statement piece that's going into like stick around, that you're going to hold on for generations and pass along to someone else, or you're going to give a gift, that's really going to like wow them. Like, to me, that's what ST DuPont is about. So could you tell us, like, what is ST DuPont? Like, how did it get its start? And then, like, how did it, I guess, how did it come from France, which I think is where it kind of started off, and come over here to the U.S.?
Sure. So don't forget, ST DuPont is what now, 152 year old brand. So that's an old brand. And it started by ST DuPont, the Simon Tissot DuPont, and he was involved in really specially made, handmade travel accessories. So, back then, Maharajas, things like that, their traveling suitcase with accoutrements were all from DuPont. The key to DuPont is really, in my opinion, it's the heritage. But in our industry, and you can walk up and down every aisle at PCA 2025 in New Orleans. There's only one true luxury brand at the trade show. So what do I mean by that? Globally, ST DuPont is in the world's best jewelry stores, department stores, leather stores, pen stores, tobacco stores, okay? And I'm not saying by any means that Davidoff, Padron, Fuente, Liga, Ashton, whatever, aren't luxury brands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that when you look at it in distribution, there's only one. And what's really cool is when you have retailers, especially in the States, that might go to Paris or might go to Madrid or might go to Rome, might go to London and go into Harvey Nichols or Harrods, whatever. And they're like, hey, look, there's DuPont. I carry DuPont. It's in these stores, right? So it gives the credibility amongst many, many types of distribution of why it is a truly luxury brand. And it's also in the craftsmanship. It's also in how they make our products. One of the most, to me, fun thing, and PCA, the week of PCA is really a fantastic time. Looking forward to New Orleans as always. Is our booth kind of is like an art gallery, okay? Where retailers come in and they just either get their phone out, take pictures, stare. And a lot of it is scratching their head and going, how'd they do that? And then a lot of it is like, of course they did that. That's ST DuPont. Okay. that's all part of the heritage. That's all part of the brand. It's all about the brand. So, so that all encompassing of quality, craftsmanship, heritage, brand image, perception, um, is really, really the cornerstone, in my opinion, to the roots for 152 years old. And by the way, and you were with us too when you go into our booth this past March. Mine was March
Mm-hmm.
in Vegas. Here's a 152-year-old brand that is co-branded with Game of Thrones. Okay, so we're not co-branding with some 100-year-old kind of thing right now. Now we do archival products, but the secret to brand success and growth is understanding the fads, understanding the fashions, understanding the trends, understanding all this, and putting it into, this isn't my father's old Cadillac, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go today and you look at like the finishes on BMWs or the styling on BMWs. Yeah, a BMW because the grille kind of looks the same, and the two headlights in the front look kind of the same, the logo looks the same, right? But there's 2024 trends or styles that really keep the brand current, as well as a huge push for DuPont internationally is really getting into ladies fashion and ladies purses. And there are specific styles or accents that if you know the brand right away, you say, yeah, that's DuPont, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it more, you're like, wow, okay, I see how it all comes together, right? So you got to have all of those qualities, all of those, the craftsmanship that a consumer right away says, oh, that's a DuPont. And I think that's really, to me, 24 years, it's just not the line tube pinging lighter. It's colors, it's finishes, but the DNA of the product in your hand is still ST DuPont Paris.
One of the things I think makes DuPont so different from other luxury brands in the industry, because you see there's premium cigar brands that market themselves as being luxury, is that when you invest in a premium cigar product, you're not meant to keep that product for forever. Like, you're meant to like smoke it and then it's gone, and then you don't have anything other than a picture to kind of prove that, yeah, I had this $800 cigar, or if it's, because there are $800 cigars out there. But with a DuPont, it's like you make that investment, and I'm sure, I mean, it's a little bit of an investment sometimes. You make that investment, but it's an investment because you get to keep that item for so long. Like, it's not something that you're just gonna light on fire. and
one of the best brand marketing campaigns really is the Piaget watch. And they look at that as an heirloom, that my father had it and now I have his watch, things like that, right? And I can't tell you how many times, I told you I go to a lot of lounges and sit with people, how many times that I hear that, like, hey, this is very special. This was my dad's DuPont, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, and you mentioned this earlier too, was, yes, it's a show me I have this stuff. Okay, is it status? Yes, everything is status. Status could be a $50 lighter. That's not what I'm saying, right? But people thrive and strive to own the best. By the way, that's kind of what our country's kind of about in a way. However, you mentioned an $800 cigar. Sitting in lounges, and pick any cigar, FFOX, right? Nobody takes the band off of that cigar and smokes it. Nobody. Why? because they want to see Jimmy sitting next to me is like, hey, look at me over here, man. I've got, this Carlito cigar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watches are the same way too. People that, it's really funny. Our consumers, our SD Dupont consumer, and we did a study about this a while ago. They have like watch winders. They have 8 watches. They have all this stuff. It's the same thing. If you have a nice Rolex on your hand, right, you're probably going to smoke your cigar and show your Rolex over here. It's not going to be over here under wrap.
Right.
All right. That's all part of, you know what? You arrived. If someone takes the band off of their cigar, that's not a good sign. So and by the way, so too, I talk a lot about the line 2 perfect pingers, which are X amount of dollars, but we have entry level product too that can get you into DuPont. So it's not like, oh my God, I got to spend $1,800, $1,600, whatever the number is, to be into the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And our Jet Flame lighters, for instance, our Maxis, our Minis, our Biggies, our Slimmies, our Twiggies, our Deffies, that's and by the way, those owners either work hard to get to the line 2 or have the line 2 but still want the Jet Flame for indoor outdoor use, golf course, boat, whatever, on the deck. People, when they love our brand, they have SC Dupont the lighter, SC Dupont the humidor, SC Dupont the cutter, SC Dupont the pen, like everything else. You look at Nike, for example, okay? Especially Nike during the Tiger year. People had Nike shirts, Nike hats, because we had the swoosh. They came out with a golf ball, you got to have the swoosh. They came out with golf shoes, got to have the swoosh. My shorts, got to have the swoosh, because they're, in this industry, people are very brand loyal. If they like X cigar brand, they're pretty much going to stick to that. But if X cigar brand comes out with a new cigar, they're going to try that because they love that brand. They are very brand loyal. And with DuPont especially, it is, what you said about it. It's not going to Staples to buy the 69-cent big click thing. It's, well, I got the Maxi Jet or the Defi, or I got the Legrand. You got to have the DuPont pen too. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you got to have the DuPont belt, and you got to have the DuPont briefcase. So that's all part of branding, where very rarely, except for a lot of the fine watches, I guess, do they not extend brands into other product categories. And that's the fun part about it. Because if your brand is that strong, you can extend it into other categories.
Yeah, with DuPont, you have, like you said, all these different items within a collection. And when you all release something, it's usually like, like you mentioned the Game of Thrones collection or something like that. And I know at PCA, and I think it was a couple weeks ago, you had just released the graffiti-inspired
You're being a salesman here right now, by the way. Very good.
So tell us a little bit about that collection, the graffiti, because
I love the graffiti collection. It's very colorful,
mm-hmm.
and it's offered in a plethora of different product lines within the DuPont. Let's call it the family of products. And you also said something about making a statement, right? Look, at the end of the day, we sell a lot of black and palladium and black lacquer and gold lighters, okay? But there are fashion people. There are people, and you can look at it and you're like, wow, whoa, what is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that collection, because I like color, I like pops, you know what I mean? Stuff that pops out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also, you got to understand, everything comes out of Paris, except our own USA exclusives. But the majority of the we might do 1, maybe 2 exclusives just for the American market a year, probably 1. But everything else has to be designed, made, manufactured, everything marketed out of SC DuPont Paris for the world. So think about that. I mentioned how, as a salesman, you need to understand your retailer in that one store in Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
SD Dupont has to look at product introductions for every continent, every country, every major city in these different countries, things like that. And that's not easy to do, right? But what's cool about it is that you truly know that this is a whole global launch. And being in Paris, and I love Paris, you for you to do the metro at Paris is an injustice. It's almost like New York City. You need to walk to Paris. You need to look at the windows. If you want to go in the boutiques, you go in the boutiques on Avenue Montaigne, or you go into the boutiques in Madison Avenue, and you just look with your eyes at like, wow, I've never seen so much orange before or yellow before. And that's, being DuPont's a fashion brand. Okay. So fashion brands have to stay well ahead because it takes, just to make a line 2 lighter is 4 to 6 months. A lighter, right? So what the heck's going on right now in 2020? What are we, 2024? What's going to go on fashion-wise in 2025, end of the year, and 2026? Because we got to get on it already. And I can tell you right now, it's not just going to be a plain black lacquer trimmed in palladium finish. That makes our brand in our stores that important because of the newness and the freshness and of being current on trend, on fad.
And I like that what you said about, looking at SD Dupont as a fashion brand, because it kind of gives you the mentality of how you do, go about creating these different collections and the different colors and the different, because all of them, like when you release them, they're usually pretty different from like the previous release. It's like a completely different thing. And I remember reading this book about Bill Steve Madden, the shoe designer's autobiography that he wrote a couple of years ago. I think it's like Shoe Master or whatever. But he was talking about how he would have his driver just drive him around New York City, and he would just look at people, and he would like you were just saying, like when you go into the stores, he would just like want the driver. He's like, just drive me around. I don't care where we go. And they would go to like the high places where they knew fashion and people with different styles would be. And he would stop. He would go, oh, stop the car. And he would get out, and he would tell, he would go up to this woman, and he'll say, where did you get those shoes? And she'll say, oh, I got them from here or something like that. And it'll be like, it wouldn't be in fashion yet. Like it will be something that like a trend that he could kind of see. He'd be like, ooh, he's like, I want to buy your shoes from you right now. And he would just buy the shoes off of the woman, and he would run back to his studio and have his team dismantle the shoe and build it back up and put their own twist on it. So I could see that SD Dupont kind of taking that same approach.
I think there was, Antoine, a documentary on him with that stuff. I mean, here's the other thing about SD Dupont, and it's a big word. It's called iconic. Okay. An iconic design. I was just watching something on, was it Coco Chanel, and in her apartment in Paris. Okay. And this dated back 75, 100 years. I forget the date. But the chandelier had like cast iron things that went to the whole crystals and all that. And in it was a number 5, which is the same Chanel number 5 number looking that's today. It had the C's, interlocking C's. That's iconic, right? And that has gone through the test of time. No different than the LV, right? No different than the Lacoste Gator or the Ralph Lauren polo player. And the iconic images of DuPont throughout all these years have still gone on. That defines a brand.
Definitely. I know you talked about working with, doing collaborations and stuff with other brands. One of them that got a lot of talk at the trade show this year was your collaboration or work that you did with Padron.
Yeah.
For their anniversary. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Wow, that very well. It took George Padron 24 years of friendship with me to finally do something together. So that even makes it even more special. 60th anniversary for Padron. We did, let's call it a soft launch. Product wasn't even in our booth. Right in the middle of the Padron family. And again, by the way, you want to define the word family. I know when you did the awards, I guess it was the night of maybe before the show started or the first night, Craig Cass did a whole tribute to the Padron family. And then the Padrones went on stage. And thank God that stage was so big left to right.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
But that gets back to family, everything about this industry. So anyway, long story short, it's been a lot of fun. I talked about co-branding and making sure that both sides meet together, and what's good for you has got to be good for me, and it makes sense on a branding, on an image, on a distribution. Padron fits that model very, it checks off a lot of boxes, right? What was really special, and that we whipped this up, George and I and Jeffrey, and the help of our Dupont team and Coles of London, to get a media retailer event in that booth at like 3:00 the first day. And I think I was sending out invitations 2 days prior. And, 2 days prior, everyone's traveling. People might not be looking at their emails, who knows, right? But the amount of people that showed up, the amount of people that supported the Padron family and the ST Dupont family was fantastic. Oh, the most unbelievable thing was, and by the way, the morning of the first day, I believe it was, George hasn't seen the final product. I haven't seen the final product. Mark Cole hasn't seen the final product. We went in to show George. Fred from Paris showed him the collection, and it was Dupont. What am I going to tell you, right? But he did, and I don't know if you saw this one. He did a special 1-of-1 for George, our whole creation, out of bronze of his father's face.
Oh, wow.
And remember I told you that people walk in my booth and it's art and things like that. It was just, and George is such a fantastic person, and his wife, their tears were all like, oh my God, like it's unbelievable, right? But you could tell genuinely when George saw that, and Jose, when they saw that lighter, it just hit home from him. No different than if you did it to my dad. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Things like that. That's what the industry is about. So the soft launch was at PCA. Product is being made right now. I'm pretty sure that the 60th is scheduled for a September, October, the cigar worldwide launch, and so will our DuPont product. We have not gone out with our sales guys to retailers yet on place an order, all that kind of stuff. Because what are we into? The end of July? You got August, September. We still got 3 months. So I'm sure that we're going to be sold out. I'll give it 2 weeks, something like that. If we had it set up in our system at PCA this year, we probably could have sold it all out those 3 days during that trade show. So that's all super exciting. Can't wait for October. And I'm sure that I'm still getting calls from retailers. Hey, when can I order? When can I order? I can order. No one's going to forget about you. We just want to make sure the timing is right.
Right.
Mainly to get as close to George as possible with his timing and do this the right way with a real ST Dupont global launch together, be it the product launch, be it the marketing side of it, everything. You want to make sure that the moving pieces to the engine are all working together as one engine and doing it correctly the right way. So we have time, but Product is being made right now.
Now, if you're thinking about everything that SD Dupont has in its portfolio, and you
Yep.
think about the cigar smoker particularly, for those, because you mentioned this a while back, which I think is good to circle back on. There are going to be some people who think SD Dupont, out of my reach, like I can't afford that. But you said that there are actually items in the SD Dupont portfolio that are affordable for people. So, like, if somebody wants to kind of start that journey in the SD Dupont and they don't want to basically start at the top and spend that money, where do you tell them to look at, like, what products in
Oh,
your
it's
portfolio?
easily it's our Maxi Jet lighter, which is our basic torch flame, single trigger, single ignition, aperture, torch flame. You know, we all recognize, and so do retailers. Mention $800 cigars. Okay, so that's kind of crazy. But even $50 cigars, they sell a lot of $10 cigars.
Mhm.
Okay, and if they didn't have the $10 cigar, that humidor might not be that big. So there's price points for everybody, right? But at the end of the day, when that consumer gets into the brand, they're going to want to do what they can to get the next step. It's no different than, you're out of school, got your first job, and you've always wanted a BMW, where you're not going to get an 8 or a 7 series, right away. But you'll probably get a 3 series, and it might be the color that you wanted. You're all fired up about it, and you take out a 3-year, a 5-year note, whatever the thing is. I guarantee you, if it's done the right way, and BMW does what they do as good as anybody, on that last month of the 5th year, that person's trading that thing in and is leaving the lot on a 5 series, right? And then before you know it, they're leaving the lot and they're getting a 7 series. And I'm not saying this happens all the time, but this is how, when someone gets into a brand and they love the brand so much, really hard to get that person out of that brand, especially if that brand was good to them through quality, through dependability, through reliability, through everything. Once you go sideways on those 4 things, it's very hard to get someone back into the brand. Not that it can't be done; it's hard, and it could be. It does get done, but that's all. That's all part of that's all part of branding. That's all part of the different products, and that's why so many cigar retailers have kind of new launches. I'm assuming, and they know what they're doing, and they know what the market wants, and they know what they're they know what that XYZ company consumer likes. So if they're a full body line, and that's all they like, they're not going to all of a sudden come out with a 70 ring gauge mild cigar, you know what I mean, or something crazy. They're going to kind of stay on kind of where they've been, what they know, and what the consumer knows. And that includes a lot of packaging too, and logos and things like that, where that consumer can spot it and knows that band and knows what they want. And, it's funny too, because I'm sure, PCA does great surveys from retailers and things like that. And, so many cigars are really sold either on brand loyalty or recommendation from the person in the humidor. So, touching on the recommendation from the person on the humidor, it's because that consumer trusts, and I've used trust a lot, trusts that they're going to let that consumer know that I trust me. This is a great cigar. They're not really being the salesman like he leaves, goes, God, I can't believe I just sold him that piece of junk. Man, he's going to hate that stuff, because it's about the second sale, right? So you want that consumer leaving with that cigar, coming back in saying, hey, Stevie, what do you like today? What should I try today? Because the last one you recommended, I loved it. Versus, hey, Stevie, I'm never going to get your recommendation again, because the one you gave me, it didn't burn right. It peeled, it cracked, it was veiny, all that kind of stuff. So, there's just so much to selling, but at the end of the day, it's really behind the company and the manufacturer and the products that they make that the consumer not only wants, but expects. And that
Awesome.
defines DuPont.
Definitely. At this point in the show, we usually kind of wrap things up for this part of the interview with two questions that every guest gets asked. The first of those questions is, do you have a philosophy that you live or work by?
I think I kind of gave it to you for the last 40 minutes. No, you know what? If you wake up in the morning and you look yourself in the mirror, and we're talking work right now, and you know what's ahead of you, you want to work, and you know what you got to get done, you go to work. If you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, I don't know what I'm going to do today, well, you get back into bed. Okay. And at the end of the day, you can, have the TV on and rest your head on your pillow, really knowing that, you did one extra thing or you accomplished something new or something like that. I'll go back, I know you're from Durham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not totally telling the sports. Everybody should watch Jim Valvano's speech at the ESPYs. Okay, cancer, died, and I don't know verbatim, one day if you laugh, cry, tell someone you love them or something like that, that's a full day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, same thing personally, the same kind of stuff too. But Jim Valvano's, I use the word iconic product, his iconic speech, really defines that. Every person you touch, every person you talk to, every spreadsheet I do a lot of spreadsheets, forecasting, things like that too. Don't just get it done, boom, 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 boom. Double check your work, make sure that sounds right, take a break, come back, the red and blue lighter, I think we could sell X. Well, and then you look at it again, you're like, I might have been a little low on that. I'm not sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing needs to be done fast. Everything needs to be done by the best of your ability. And you're not going to be right all the time. But, just make sure when you hit send on a spreadsheet or when you hang up the phone with a customer and or a consumer that you really gave them everything you can. And that to me is really the most important thing. Don't shortchange. Don't, get to the point where I didn't tell them that, or, you know what I mean? Just make sure that retailer, manufacturer, consumer, media person, you really laid out everything to them that you knew that you could.
I want you to finish this sentence. Les Mann is.
A good friend.
Great. I think that says it all. For those people who are not watching this and they might just be listening, how can they kind of keep up with SD DuPont and what you all are working on and putting out?
Well, I personally do a lot of these blogs. We have a lot of social media influencers. We're not in every tobacco store, and you know better than I. There's probably, I don't know now how many, 2,800, 3,200, we're in about 400 doors, right? But those 400 doors are authorized SD DuPont retailers, and they always buy what we have new, what's going on here, things like that. And I think that is really important that those type of retailers look, we could end up doing, and I don't know, 8 times the volume, 10 times if we were in every 2,600, right? Remember I talked about it's not for everybody all the time, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our authorized DuPont retailers are proud that they carry DuPont. They don't take it and use it as, a given. We at Coles of London are proud that we have them as a partner. So it's a two-way street. on finding the right partners and working together with the right partners. Um, you don't have to, we're not selling Coca-Cola or Pepsi. So you don't have to be everywhere. You have to be in the right places that make the most sense, because it's an investment not only for Coles of London to be carrying inventory, it's an investment from a retailer to be stocking inventory. So it doesn't do you any good if you buy a ton of stuff, be it DuPont, be it a cigar, all that stuff, if it's not going to sell. It all gets back to the second sale, right? And then the next sale. So picking your partners, choosing your partners, working with your partners, relationship. A relationship is just not saying, hey, how you doing, Jim? Hey, Les, how you doing? And then, hey, have a good show. Have a good show. No. It's seeing Jim and working with them and stopping and saying, how's business? I very rarely stop at how's my DuPont business? How's the cigar business? How is the store? How is the lounge? How is all this stuff? Then, to me, that's what the relationship part is, because customers will share with you because they trust you and they know that you're only looking out for their best interest to grow their business.
Great. That's definitely true. So I know, so like you said, that there are about 400 or so US, you said, people who carry DuPont. So I think it's one of those products where you should go into an actual store rather than trying to buy it online. I mean, you can buy it online, but it's something about being able to see it and interact with it. And really, I mean, this is something I think it's a bit of an investment. So I think you should really go into the store to try to find this product. But we will put in the show notes the website, which is, I think it's us.st-dupont.com for a little more information. And also Instagram, ST DuPont US. There's a whole bunch of this inspiration, I guess, to get you into that store to check these products out. And I want to thank Les for coming on to the show today. He's going to sit tight because we actually have two more things to do before we're done. But for you all who are watching, I want to thank you for watching. And if you're not having a great day, make it a great day.